white Americans proud to have Donald Trump as their president? But before we get started with this demonstration, let me read my copyright disclaimer. Copyright disclaimer under Section 107 of the Copyright Act of 1976. Allowance is made for fair use for purposes such as criticism, comment, news reporting, scholarship, and research. What that means is that everything that you hear in this demonstration is for entertainment and educational purposes only. Now, I'm raising this question because I want to know. Now, this is an open platform. Your opinion, regardless of what it is welcome. Your perspective is very much appreciated. So I want for all of the white Americans, come on up to the front. Black Americans and every other nationality, move to the side. I want this demonstration to be about how white Americans feel about Trump. Are y'all proud? Because I know when Obama became president, a lot of black people was proud of Obama becoming the president just because he was black. So if we can allow black people to be proud to be black, we can allow white Americans to be proud to be white. So I need all white Americans to come up and let us know exactly how you feel about Donald Trump. Do you agree with him? Do you disagree? But most important, as white Americans, are y'all proud to have Donald Trump as y'all president? Moderators, the only thing you time them out for is if they use profanity or if they start calling people's names. Other than that, let the white Americans, let them speak their piece. Salute Sean Shenanigans, salute Caramel, Positive Vibes, Top Flight, Nola. I see everybody down there, OG Do, Sophary, salute. So, I want to hear from white Americans. This is y'all demonstration to talk to us and the rest of the world. Are y'all actually proud of Trump being y'all president? Can I get everybody to throw up some prayer hands for Nola? Nola says, just had the eye right surgery. Can I get everybody to throw up some prayer hands for Nola? All right. Let's jump into this demonstration.
Is likely going to be decided by just a few thousand voters in a few key states. And chief among those voters are white women, who are one of the biggest voting blocs in the nation. NBC's Ali Vitale traveled to all-important Pennsylvania for a deeper look at what's motivating them, and we're going to talk about that in a moment, but first, here's Ali's report.
I changed my voter registration the day after the Dobbs decision.
From what to what?
From Republican to Independent.
Dr. Teresa Wheeling had always been a registered Republican.
I felt embarrassed to call myself a Republican after the passage of the Dobbs decision.
In 2020, Wheeling went for Trump because she believed her kids' jobs hinged on the policies of the administration.
I thought it would be hypocritical if I did not vote for Trump.
When you think about voting in this election cycle, do you have a sense of who you're going to vote for?
Absolutely. I'm going to vote for Kamala Harris. 4 years ago, I might have said no, but now I do think she is more moderate, and I absolutely cannot vote for Trump.
Voters like Teresa in areas like this one, Erie, Pennsylvania, could decide the election. White women are the largest voting bloc in the country. And since 2000, the GOP presidential ticket has won a majority of them. In 2016, the group, including Deb Loney and Lisa Nebus, helped Trump win the presidency.
His message about wanting to break away from the status quo of politicking was appealing.
I voted for Trump. It was a struggle for me, and I ended up voting for Trump, and I regret it.
Trump grew his support with white women in 2020, despite losing voters like Lisa and Deb.
I always thought women liked me.
NBC News data shows white women shifting left with their party preference in recent years, from a GOP advantage in 2012 to a growing gap after 2016.
Do you see that leftward shift?
We do see it. Jackie Payne runs the nonpartisan group Galvanize Action. They've been tracking the same 6,500 moderate white women across 10 swing states since May. A margin of error race throughout, but their new poll shows Harris has a slight edge, 46 to 44%.
It is a game of inches. Like, it is so close.
The economy is a top issue for these voters. Nearly half of them believe Republicans are better on the issue than Democrats. Preserving democracy, fixing immigration, and strengthening abortion rights are also key.
Primary importance is women's rights.
What's important to me is our democracy right now.
The whole political discourse, I feel like, is getting very negative.
A reckoning that could decide the election, even if it's just for now.
Is this a permanent realignment for you?
Maybe with my registration, but not with my voting. The voting is always based upon the person, the character, and the issue.
And so, Katty, when we look at the way that white women broke down overall, but specifically in Pennsylvania back in 2020, you can see here that Biden was able to win among all women. And then if you break down even further, you see that Trump had an edge when it came to breaking out white women specifically. Then we look at our new NBC News poll from over the weekend, writ large nationally. We know, of course, this is a head-to-head race, and you even heard it in the piece there. It's a game of inches. We know that it could be decided by a cluster of a few thousand votes in just a few key states. Take a look, for example, that in our September 2024 poll, Trump was trailing Harris among white women. You see Harris here has a margin of +6. But then if you look ahead to 1 month later, you already see a pretty massive shift happening where Trump now is up with this group of voters by 2. And so this is going to be a pretty significant shift that we're watching. Yes, in states like Pennsylvania, it was important to travel to Erie, but then also looking in places like Georgia, North Carolina, Michigan, Wisconsin, all of these states that we spend so much time on, these are the kinds of shifts that we're watching, not just in our poll, but in polling across the board. And they could be the thing that make the ultimate difference. Jonathan?
And as
Are white people, are white Americans proud to have Donald Trump as their president? Also, let me hear it from white America. What's behind Donald Trump's mega? As a white American, do you feel as though when Donald Trump says, "Make America great again," as a white America, do you feel like Donald Trump is talking about going back into physical slavery? Do you feel like Donald Trump's whole mega demonstration is all about racism? Come on, white America, come on up to the front. Talk to me. Many white Americans say that they regretted voting for Trump. Are you one of those white Americans that regretted voting for Trump? Talk to me. The Full Life says the presidency after this gonna be a real joke. Clown movie stars and singers running next.
White women has been pervasive. All this myth of the disaffected Republican, primarily white women, has been pervasive all the way through 2020, and boy, did it cost Democrats big, because they built their strategy around it for 2020, this reapportionment, redistricting cycle that is so paramount to the next 10 years of Democratic politics. and it burned them, right? And now we're going to be sitting here dealing with the wake of this election cycle for the next 10 years.
Yeah, I mean, and I read your research and I found it quite fascinating. Julie, I want to ask you, because you wrote a great piece in The Nation last year. I have to say, I don't spend a lot of my time trying to dissect the voting trends of white women, but for purposes of this conversation, I thought it was something we should at least talk about, since so much attention had been played on Black and Latino voters. And I'm just curious if you think, as someone who has looked at the other side of the divide, was this overwhelming support for Donald Trump in the 2020 election a vote for Trump, or was it a vote against Biden-Harris with the emphasis on Harris?
Well, I think that it's really the maintenance of the status quo is what it showed.
Yeah.
So white women have been voting, narrow majorities of white women or pluralities of white women have been voting for Republican candidates for the better part of 70 years. And I think one of the important things that we can hopefully take away from this election is that these are longstanding patterns that are unlikely to change. And so this idea that Molly mentioned earlier, that kind of white women are the better angels of white people, and because we experience sexism and misogyny, which we do, that we somehow are more aligned or more empathic towards the oppression that people of color, and particularly Black Americans, experience in this country. Like, that has been routinely discredited at every point throughout history. Not only have white women and majorities of white women voted Republican for the better part of 70 years, white women have taken an active role in the maintenance of white supremacy. And
stop right there. She says that white women have taken an active role in white supremacy. How many of y'all knew that? How many of y'all knew that? Let me backtrack.
And particularly Black Americans experience in this country, like, that has been routinely discredited at every point throughout history. Not only have white women and majorities of white women voted Republican for the better part of 70 years, white women have taken an active role in the maintenance of white supremacy. And that has not changed over the course of generations. And so we still see those legacies today.
I need for all white women, do y'all agree with her statement, or do y'all disagree with her statement? According to her, white women have took on the role of maintaining white supremacy. As a white woman, do you agree with her or do you disagree with her? Come on, white women, talk to me. Appreciate that super sticker, Nola. Appreciate that super sticker, Nola.
Whether it's Amy Cooper or the Permit Patties, or white women that have weaponized their identities against especially Black men who threaten their privilege. These are long-standing entrenched patterns. Now, the one point that Rachel just mentioned that I do think is worthwhile paying attention to, and that I
do Black women feel like they are in competition with Black men? Do white women feel like they are in competition with Black men? I mean, when you look on the totem pole, Black men are at the bottom, white women are at the bottom. So could that be the reason why we have so many situations with those Karens? You know, those Karens are always doing crazy things towards Black men. What are y'all thoughts? Somebody don't like what I'm saying, y'all. I'm experiencing all kind of difficulties. My numbers dropped. Wow. All right, let's get back. You see that positive vibe? Boy, they know how to get shank rock, don't they?
I do think is worthwhile paying attention to, and that I do viewers, is that I think one incorrect takeaway from this election is that therefore we just wash our hands and say, okay, we're no longer speaking to white women. Like, they're going to do what they're going to do politically. Their interests are their interests, and there's no point. And actually, I think that's where kind of delving into the subgroups of white women, and particularly looking at those white college-educated women who did appear to swing this election, where there has been real infrastructure built post 2016 that is doing real organizing in communities. That's not just swoop swooping in with some ads in the weeks before the election that is really using white women's networks in those communities to organize, that does appear to make a difference. And not only that, I think we have to look at the fact that for the better part of 40 years, we have had a vast right-wing organizing machine in this country that has explicitly targeted white women. And so the notion that kind of white women are just going to do this, I think, in a country that's so rooted in white supremacy, it probably is the default position. But
what are y'all thoughts? She's dropping some heavy jewels. I see you, Coffee Girl. Let me get everybody to throw up some prayer hands for Coffee Girl. Hope you're feeling well, Coffee Girl. Just sit back and get your rest, Coffee Girl. Appreciate you. She dropping some jewels, y'all. She's dropping some jewels.
Are just going to do this? I think, in a country that's so rooted in white supremacy, it probably is the default position. But it doesn't mean that we don't organize. And I think one of the takeaways is that we have to look at where that organizing happened and the difference that it made. And there are examples of that.
I appreciate that. So, Aaron, I'll turn to you on that because I think Julie does make some legitimate points. But you are a member of the media, and I think the media is a big part of this conversation because they seem to center white women and they seem to have these conversations. After 2016, it was like, oh, we didn't pay enough attention to Trump supporters. Somehow, we're back on 2020 saying, oh, but we still have to consider the other side. When do we get to center black women and other women of color who have disproportionately upheld this party? Aaron, as a journalist, where do you fall on this? Taking into consideration Julie's point about not ignoring this voting bloc, but also paying attention to the people who disproportionately upheld this party. Some would say dance with the one who brung you. What say you?
Salute Nika. Salute Nika. Salute Cotan. Is it me or where's all the white people at? Now, when the demonstration is not about white people, the white people show up. But the demonstration is about white people. They don't want to show up. Come on, my white side of the American family. Come on. Come on, white America. And this is not to bash any of y'all. It's a general question. And this is a good topic.
Well, where I fall on it, Tiffany, is that I hope to start a newsroom that centers women of color and other marginalized communities as, central to the narrative around women in politics in this country. And
Positive Vibe says their funky butts are in the bushes.
also, interrogating white womanhood and what that means and what that identity brings to how they perform at the ballot box. Listen, two things that were themes of mine in my coverage of this election cycle. One, the centennial of suffrage, which obviously our newsroom is named for the 19th Amendment, but with an asterisk for the omission of the black women who were excluded from the franchise at that time. The centennial of suffrage, 100 years since white women have had access to the ballot, what have they used that access for? It has not been largely to expand a freer and fairer democracy. Meanwhile, you have black and brown women who had to fight twice as hard, despite fighting shoulder to shoulder with white suffragists, when they finally got their access to the ballot with the passage of the Voting Rights Act of 1965. They did use it not only on behalf of themselves, but on behalf of their community, their country, and this democracy. And so, that dynamic still persists 100 years after the ratification of the 19th Amendment. And that is something that must be reckoned with. I wrote about the weaponization of white womanhood in response to the Amy Cooper debacle at Central Park earlier this spring. Racism was on the ballot, we know, for black and brown women this cycle. Racism apparently maybe was not on the ballot for the majority of white women who saw, racist rhetoric and policy coming from the president's administration, and yet we're still focused on, issues that affected their lives or their households personally.
I just want to tell the viewers what the footage they were seeing of that motorcade going through the crowd that perhaps may have been the president's motorcade. We are not 100% sure what that is, but very on point with what we're talking about. You see many white women there cheering on. It is. We have confirmed. NBC has confirmed that is the president's motorcade riding through this crowd who is, by all evidence, refusing to accept the results of the election at this million MAGA march and the Stop the Steal rally. You see very few people wearing masks, and that is the outgoing president, Donald Trump, his motorcade riding through this rally right now.
One thing that I will say about white people, whenever, and maybe as a white person, y'all can answer this question. Whenever it's time to talk about race, white people always say, it ain't about race. Why y'all don't like to talk about racial issues? See, black people, we love to talk about racial issues. But white people, especially white Americans, they don't like to talk about racial issues. Now, before I comment on it, I'm asking y'all, why don't y'all as white people like to talk about race? Now, this is a demonstration for white people. Only one white person left a comment. We got 270 watching, 270 people watching. Listen, this is an open platform. I want y'all honest opinion on this subject. Y'all not going to get bashed. Nobody's going to, start calling y'all names or nothing like that. This is a grown folks conversation. And the only way as Americans, as the whole world, the only way that we're going to be able to fix these problems, we got to deal with the problems. Only way we're going to fix these racial problems, the only way you're not going to hear Shank talk about racial problems, we got to fix the racial problems. White Americans, pull up. Pull up. Y'all ain't got no problem pulling up on my other demonstrations. 228 watching and not one white person pull up, but one. And that one is trying to distract the conversation by saying, it ain't about race. Sure it is. Sure it's about race. If it wasn't about race, they wouldn't categorize white votes, black votes, Latino, Hispanic votes, if it wasn't about race. If it wasn't about race, you wouldn't see race on applications that you fill out. Come on now. Let's keep it grown over here, all right?
I do see some people wearing masks, but not a lot. So we couldn't ask for better timing for this conversation. As we're watching this, Molly, I will bring it back to you. One of the problems and the challenges I had was this reinvention of the white woman narrative. And I think many of us took note when the media attempted to...
And you had 5 women on this panel. You had 5 women on this panel. You have a panel of melanated women. You have a panel with Caucasians. They're talking about race. They're talking about race. And this is a good conversation. Listen to what they all are saying. This is good dialogue. This is good dialogue. The one white lady, she spoke up and said, white women are active in keeping the maintenance up on white supremacists. That's a white woman talking.
To rewrite the narrative of Melania Trump, where many people in the media saw a victim, other folks saw a villain, and someone who was not, in fact, the victim, but a willing, complacent co-conspirator with her husband, who herself was, in fact, a birther. And she was quite frequently treated with kid gloves, and that fed into this narrative of these poor white women, while many women of color were out here fighting for democracy on the front lines. Is this a voting bloc that is changeable? Because so many Democratic campaigns seem so eager to win this voting bloc, or should people on the left side of the divide focus on the people who have long stood by their political affiliation?
So I think it's an interesting situation because you really have seen indigenous people, African American women and men really show up for the Democratic Party in a way that's amazing. And the kind of activism we've seen has been incredible and just awe-inspiring. But I think it's worse because white women are very large, like 32% of the electorate. They're a large voting bloc, and I think they differ a lot from area to area, right? Like women in the North don't have the same history of voting for terrible racists the way that women in the South do. So I do think, and women with college degrees tend to vote Democratic more. So I do think there's an opportunity to speak to those people. But I think it's also really important that Democrats acknowledge all the work that has been done by Stacey Abrams and Fair Fight and all the activists on the ground in Arizona who have done this incredible work and have really changed the election and changed the world and delivered Arizona. So I think, we shouldn't ignore anyone in the Democratic Party, but I think it's really important, especially right now, to give those people their due.
Hey,
Well, since the white Americans don't want to be truthful and honest and talk to us about are they proud to have Donald Trump as their president, black people, come on back up to the front. Other nationalities, come on up to the front. And let's discuss this. All right, there we go. Epstein says, yes, I am proud. Now we getting somewhere. Do you care to share? Do you care to share why you're proud? Okay, where is at? Okay, so we got two that are proud. All right. Epstein says, I've said 3 messages as a white dude. Okay, share with us why y'all are proud. Trump gonna save this country. Okay, the Voice says racism is taught and learned. If there is any racism, it was learned from somewhere. Don't ask me, says I voted Trump 3 times, yo. Every black man at my work voted for Trump. Okay, so we're getting somewhere. Some of them are saying that they're proud of Trump because Trump is going to fix the problems. Trump is going to get us somewhere. Okay? Is it anybody that's white that is not proud of Trump? Whereas at says, my friends at work did the same. Ryan says, this mega country, we back. Okay? Okay, let me ask y'all another question. Do y'all think that when he says mega, make America great again, do y'all think that he's saying make it racism again? Put blacks back in slavery? What are y'all thoughts on mega, on make America great again? The voice inside my head says, I'm proud of Trump, but not because he is white, because he is doing what he said he was going to do. I respect that, because he did say what he was going to do in his first week in office. He started doing what he said he was going to do. I respect that. Leona said, I'm proud to be white, more happy to be an American. Ryan says, not at all. Don't ask me says, I'm 50, and Trump is the only president that I feel isn't fake. Yes, I voted for Obama too. Okay. Whereas that says, no, it's to make it dignified for all patriots. Flame Cash says, no. He basically saying, bring common sense again. Okay, I respect that. Epstein says, 1, I grew up poor as, y'all know what, just poor whites and blacks. When government focused on foreigners, we got left behind. Poor is a class, not a race. I agree with you. Austin says, I'm glad that Trump is back in. I don't agree with everything he says, but he does keep his word. That's where I'm at, Austin. I don't agree with everything that Trump says. 70% of the things that he say and does, I agree with. 30%, I disagree. But however, like Austin said, when he say he gonna do something, he keep his word. Ryan says he was taking care of the black community since the 70s. And I believe that. I believe that. I don't know what happened with some blacks now that Trump became president. But because before Trump became president, black people loved Trump. I'm just keeping it 100. Michael Nightwolf says, I'm Native America, and I believe President Trump shall do whatever is necessary. Everyone will now have to straighten up. Bingo. And that's what it is. Trump is going to make all of us straighten up. And a lot of Americans don't want to do that. A lot of Americans don't want to straighten up. A lot of Americans want to keep doing wicked, evil, and doing all the things that they've been doing. Trump, he laying the law down. Trump putting his foot down. And it's going to force you and me and everybody else that's an American, it's going to force us to do better. So I agree. The Full Life says Epstein didn't kill himself. We gave too much already. Lou says it's going to happen. Austin says I agree with you on that 100%. Now we getting somewhere. Now we getting somewhere. Now we getting somewhere. Because see, I can't speak for a white American. I can try to say, okay, you know, white people, white Americans, they ain't proud of Trump. I could say they is proud of Trump. I could give reasons why they ain't. I could give reasons why they ain't, but I'm not white. So it wouldn't be fair for white Americans for me to try to speak for them. Ms. Parker says, facts to Full Life. Ryan says, I love seeing the diversity in the mega movement. We, the people, love our country. Skin color has nothing to do with loving our country. I agree. Don't Ask Me says, you ask for whites, but I am human. All right, I respect that. I respect that. Don't Ask Me. Human is my race. I respect that. I respect that. Michael Knight Wolf says, President Trump might need to round up millions of us. What do you mean by that? What do you mean by that? What do you mean by Trump needs to round a million of us up? And another question that I want to ask, okay, Michael Knightwood says, simply deport. Austin says, you are right on that. I never try speaking for anybody. We are all individuals, and I feel we should all be treated as such. Michael says, even Americans. Okay, how do y'all feel about Project 2025? As a white American, how do you feel about Project 2025? Do you feel like that's a racist project? Do you feel like Trump is pushing a racist narrative when it comes to Project 2025? How many of y'all think this is propaganda? How many of y'all think this is propaganda? Drop a 1 if you think this is propaganda. Wow. What the hell? Wow. What are y'all thoughts? Let me read some of these comments and then we're going to get out of here. Ryan says, I don't think any of us could survive another Democrat win. Epstein says, neo-cons. Jason says, I went to a powwow and this white guy with blue eyes had a full-blood Indian grandpappy. He was part of it. The voice inside me says, I like Trump's idea. Make countries pay to enrich our citizens instead of us paying to enrich all these other countries. Ryan says, if you're born in America, you're a native to America. Where else are we supposed to call home? Don't Ask Me says, we all stood together after 9/11. Stood as one and it scared the hell out of them. They have been dividing us ever since. Michael Knightwood says, Ryan, but you're not Native America. Big JM, time to protect our borders and our culture. Epstein says, no, repeal birthright citizenship. I made this a short demonstration because I don't want it to be long, because I want y'all to leave in the comment section after this demonstration. And when you catch this on the replay, leave in the comment section, as a white American, are you proud that Donald Trump is your president? Salute everybody, and I'll see y'all on the next demonstration. Salute.